Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners for Monday, February 12, 2018 for Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District to order. Please rise.
I'd like to have a moment of silence for those firemen that have lost their lives this past month in the United States. There'll be 5 firemen. Following that, I'll have a prayer. Dear God, we come tonight to give honor to those who have made the sacrifice of themselves for others. I pray, Lord, that you will be with the families of those who experience this loss, that you will watch over them, that you'll touch them, you'll bring them comfort. And Lord, we thank you for the protection that you give us. We pray for protection for the firefighters here in Bonita, that you might always watch over them and guard them. We thank you for our community, our country, our families, and I pray we might always live in honor of them. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't have any cards, but do we have any public comment on agenda items this evening? Hearing none?
Yes.
Which agenda item?
Regarding the budget?
I need a number of the agenda item.
Agenda item number 6, please.
Actually, that's an internal item for our financials. There is another public comment at the end, if it's not a specific number.
If available, I'd like to speak then, sir.
You may. I need a motion for the approval of the January 2nd, 2018 special meeting minutes.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Also need a motion for the regular meeting minutes from January 8th, 2018.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now I need one motion for the approval of the January 2018 financials and current expenditures and ACH payments, the acknowledgement of financial report, and the acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts.
So moved.
Second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda would be the presentations. Chief?
Yes, sir. Board and members of the public, I would like to, I don't know if is this mic work?
Yep.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about the lieutenant's promotion. Here at the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District, when we promote lieutenants, they have to have a significant amount of time, a minimum of 5 years, and under the new contract, it'll be 8 years of service before you qualify as a lieutenant. Additionally, every lieutenant needs to be certified and also credentialed as a paramedic in order to lead the troops on the calls out in the public. You know, as many of you understand and know that I've been in school and education system for a long time in my tenure here at the fire department, and I will tell you that the lieutenant's exam is the hardest test I have ever taken. It is constructed of every policy and procedure we have, all of our protocols, union contracts, and it is a massive volume of information that they need to know for that test. And if you do not get a 96 on it, essentially, or a very, very good grade, you do not get promoted in this department, simply because the competition is very stiff. So, to give you a little background of the lieutenant's test, I did want to recognize the 3 new lieutenants that we have promoted here today. First, it would be Roy Brown. You want to come up front, Roy, for your pinning? Do you have somebody here to pin you, Roy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind. It sticks better in flesh.
That's good.
Here is your sheet. Congratulations. Roy's going to remain up front. Next, we have Lieutenant John Coots.
Get some blood. We want blood.
And lastly, we have Lieutenant Whitlock. I will turn the next presentation over to Deputy Chief Scott.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. So we have another opportunity this afternoon to present a Phoenix Award. For those of you who don't know, our Phoenix Award is our highest, most prestigious award that we give out here at the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District. The significance of the Phoenix, if you don't know, it's a mythical bird that dies and then rises again from the ashes. So the significance of the award and the presentation is it's given to our first responders, emergency responders that render care to someone that is deceased. So they have no pulse, no breathing. So they are clinically deceased. And because of their intervention and their professionalism and their care, those people not only survive, but they survive to 100% recovery. And we happen to have Mrs. Kurtz with us tonight, and she is in that condition. So we're celebrating, not only giving, excuse me, out an award, but we're celebrating that she's here with us this evening, or this afternoon. So on December 9th, Mrs. Kurtz came into our Station 5 with her husband. She had been out jogging, I believe, and let's just say wasn't feeling very well. So she came in, the crew started to assess her at the station, the EMS unit was there and our crew was present, and they loaded her in the ambulance and were getting ready to take her to the hospital. And I wasn't there, so if I get any of these little details wrong, you guys can correct me, right, later. But once she got, yeah, not now. Once she got in the back of the ambulance, her condition worsened, and the crew, one of them here today, we've known for He's been in Bonita. He works for Lee County EMS. He's been here for over 20 years. So he's one of us, basically. We've known him for a very long time. He opened the door. He asked for assistance from one of our firefighters, Joe Sanderson, who was also on the call. They got in the back of the ambulance, and then our patient went into cardiac arrest, to make a long story short. They proceeded to treat her accordingly in the ambulance and all the way to the hospital. Now, one thing I want to interject here is most people think the best place for a person in cardiac arrest is in the back of an ambulance. That is not the case. We stay on scene and treat people in cardiac arrest because normally we show up with 5 people to do this work. If you're in an emergency room in this condition, there's at least 5 people. In a hospital, maybe 7 or 8, because everybody has a specific job. So the reason I bring that up is to compliment the crew. There was 2 people in the back of that ambulance. They had to do chest compressions. They had to manage the patient's airway. They had to run the cardiac monitor. They had to interpret all those things, give medications, all while driving down the road at, let's face it, probably 60-plus miles an hour and trying to treat that patient. Very difficult, very challenging, and normally we don't put ourselves in that situation, but that's how it occurred. And of course, we had a positive outcome, so that's great. So anyway, I just wanted to make note of that. Without further ado, I guess we can bring up the individuals. We'll start with the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District Paramedic Joe Sanderson, if you'll come up to the front. From Lee County EMS, the one I said we've known about as long as I've worked here, we've all worked here, is Kevin Guerin. And not with us tonight, it was also with Lee County EMS, is Randy Brown. He's also someone we've known for a very, very long time. So congratulations to these gentlemen for rendering professionalism. And again, we're very, very happy to have you with us here tonight, Ms. Kurtz.
Got me between these two thorns?
The rose between the thorns.
Thanks, guys.
You're very
Sorry.
That's good, Chair.
We do have a little pin for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. These guys were great. I don't remember a thing, but they were great.
Thank you. At this time, we usually take a couple of minute recess for anybody that would like to exit after the awards that don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we can get back to business. Next item is Commissioner's business. Commissioner Murphy?
I have nothing to add at this time.
Commissioner Casella?
I just have one thing on the plane crash. I just want to congratulate you, Chief. You guys did a well-organized operation, working with the Sheriff's Department, and and the FAA, or whoever the other groups that were there. It was just well-organized, looked professional, and it was a difficult situation. And
Yes, sir.
I was in attendance, so I thought you did a great job. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
It was quite a break-in for the new station.
It was.
Commissioner Fitzgerald?
I have an introduction more than anything else. I want to make a motion. I think it has to be on the next month's agenda. I'd like to have the Board of Commissioners call for and conduct a workshop to convene as early as possible. Conducting a workshop is one of the foundations of a public board that has gone through any radical change. And the Bonita Springs Board of Commissioners has done that. We have a new commissioner just appointed this month. Myself, I was just appointed in January, and Pat McCourt left us after a couple of years. The conducting of business is to develop a more intimate knowledge of the members, which is now difficult because of the Sunshine Law. The only time we get to see each other is a few minutes at these board meetings. But yet, we make major decisions affecting the city and affecting this fire department. I think we should have a better handle on each other. And I think this is an opportunity for each of the individual commissioners to identify their goals for the near and the far future, state what we might be expecting from the staff, get a chance to talk about some of our expectations, frustration, or wishes, and to become familiar with the Florida State Code, which defines our duties and obligations. So, at the next board meeting, I'd like to have this motion ready for a vote. I don't know if we can discuss it now at all. If we could, it would be good, but if not,
Once
that's fine.
once it's been motioned and seconded, is the time for discussion now? You're just presenting the idea, and
Yes.
we'll put it on next month's agenda and have the discussion at
Okay.
that time.
Well, at least you'll be prepared for it, and when you walk in next month,
Correct.
You'll have an idea. Thank you very much. I have no other business.
Okay? Commissioner Machero?
No, sir.
Okay, and I have nothing this evening. Old business? Any old business that we need to talk about? New business? Need a motion for the disposition of assets report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Station 6 change orders. Are we going to do all of these under one motion, or do you want them individually?
You can do them on.
Yeah, I would think so. Okay, just wanted to make sure that, we've got we need a motion, if whoever wants to just read the numbers of the change orders into their motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, 21. After a second, I'd like to have a comment.
Okay?
Well, I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes. The one item that I have a question on is the bay door support. Being a brand-new station built to hurricane specifications, wouldn't the architect have taken care of that matter? Could anybody please give me a comment as to why that is necessary?
I will say that they initially called for a 8-inch steel plates to support the doors that had to be changed from the going straight up to the rollbacks is one of the reasons, and they had to expand those to make those 10-inch plates instead of 8-inch plates. I know the assistant chief was intricately involved with that, so if I'm misrepresenting.
No, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
Chairman? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Casset. I just got a question. Do we, these extra costs, or does the contractor, is he charged for this, or are we charged for these change orders?
We are charged with, it depends. If the change order is going to benefit us, then they are charged. If we make a change, we pay for it. If
Okay.
they make a change, then they have to pay for it, if it's not in the plan,
Okay, thank you.
typically.
Commissioner Casal?
Just like the microwave outlets. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, this station has a microwave. Why is it
Yes.
something new?
The area that the microwave was that normally is placed, the outlet there only has one specific outlet, and we needed, because we have Since the old station was built, we have put the signboards up, and that's why we need additional outlets for that. I believe that's the correct reason why. We need additional outlets for that because we had to run a wire now because we put the new TVs there that have the signboards, basically.
Okay, I see.
So we didn't have enough. It was designed like the old station.
I got you.
And we didn't, the signboards came after that, so we have to add.
Sounds like just a microwave, I understand now.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have a question, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
On my desk is a picture of the new station.
It's further on the list.
Is it? Where is
I
it?
think it's going to come under the chief's report.
On the chief's report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to be sure we weren't talking about something missing. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item is the purchase of the replacement of engine 23. Who wants to tell us about that? I mean, basically for the public.
Yes, basically for the public, it is in the budget to purchase engine 23, which is a replacement engine, which has been designated for replacement at this time. We have signed the PO to start the process. As many of you know, we're a year out typically, a little less, maybe 10 months or so.
And it's replacing a 15, 17-year-old?
15-year-old engine,
15-year-old
yes.
engine, okay.
I think that's a 15-year-old, right?
It'll be 15 when that comes in.
Yeah, when it comes in. yeah.
Okay, just for the public.
Question. What's the price of that vehicle?
The price of the vehicle is $569,000. However, we do get a prepaid discount if we pay in full for $549,000.
Is that a Pierce?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How come we buy all Pierce? And I guess the reframing that is, do we seek bids out to get apparatus within a reasonable cost?
Yes, sir. These bids, we try to stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent with our apparatus. We do not do typically custom builds. They're builds that we already have, just like our stations. We already have the model that we like and that we
Yeah.
use and that we're familiar with. And Pierce is the only one that makes that specific model.
Is this model used at other stations, other departments?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is this model available to other departments?
Yes,
Or
it
is
is.
it custom-made for us?
No, it's available to other departments. And it's off of the state bid as well.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, now, any further discussion?
I'd like to make a comment that if we purchase this before a certain date in March, we'll not only avoid a 3% increase, we'll also save $20,000, which amounts to about a $37,000 savings. So I would hope we do that in a time frame and make that savings.
Any further comments or
I have a
discussion?
question. Sure.
Yes, sir.
$569,000, I'm sure it's not a number out of order or anything, but how, as a commissioner, do I say that's a fair price? And my question to you is, what do other similar what do other similar models cost? Seagrave, Mack, I don't think Mack makes trucks anymore, but things of that nature. Are we in the high end of the market buying $500,000 trucks when there are $300,000 or $400,000 trucks available? I know the benefit of having uniformity in trucks. We have the same equipment, same maintenance. I'm just trying to think of my own responsibility, and it seems whatever the price is what's presented to us, and we say yes or no. And actually, we have very little data to work on. So I'm asking you, Chief, to provide for me the price of engines in this parameters, with this parameters, has to be the right size and everything, from several other manufacturers, just so I'd have an idea. I would feel more comfortable if I had that.
Yes, I will comment on that, and I
Sure.
will provide you with the information you asked for, sir. All, these vehicles are all in the state bid, which means they've all been pre-bidded out through other departments within the state bid. So when we pull these numbers off of the state, just like we buy all of our vehicles, when you talk about economies of scale,
Yep.
Bonita Springs is not buying for Bonita Springs off of our bid, buying one engines. We basically piggyback onto other bids that have been done by larger companies. I think Marion County is one of them, so we piggyback onto that bid and get the same price for what they pay for an engine. So the economies of scale are there for us when we pull off the bid. Now, if you were going to do a custom job outside of the state bid, then you would design your truck, put it out for bid, have Seagrave, LaFrance, or whoever else is building them, give you a fair price or price. They would have a bid against the parameters that you set. Now, the parameters that we set essentially are the parameters that Pierce makes as a standard truck that's on the bid. However, if we were going to put the same truck out for bid, only Pierce would be able to make those specifications in that respect, and that's why they have the economies of scale on the state bid. I hope I made that somewhat clear.
Yeah, that does help quite a bit. I question, and it sounds like you've answered, I don't like buying just a custom truck for Benita Springs Fire Department when other competitive models might just do the job. But you explained, but I'll still ask you for some bids.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
I think,
Thank you.
in conversations I've had, one of the selling points with staying with Pierce is that any firefighter can work on any one of our trucks, and they'll be trained because the trucks are all very similar, and they don't have to stop and look, well, where's this valve, where's that? And you can jump from one truck to another, and it keeps, the uniformity, which I think is important. And like, I think you mentioned, also servicing and doing the work on it. Our guys do most of our own work, and for them to learn 2 or 3. We have a Sutphen that I know we've had issues with, and as I recall, it was more money than what we paid for our new ladder through Pierce. But, I know a lot of homework has gone into the buying of these, and Pierce definitely has put out a good product.
And I will say, in years past, many years ago, we would design custom trucks. Typically now, at least since I've been the chief here, just like our stations, if we have a product that we like and it's on the state bid, it's already been purchased out, it's already been priced out, then that is the most cost-efficient way to purchase a vehicle that we know works to our standard.
And they last 15 years minimum.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
However, that being said, sir, I will give you...
It's just
cost
due
comparison.
diligence, and I think the conversation is important to the viewer of our programs and people to know. It's funny when you look at a fire truck, they're beautiful, they're big, expensive. It's our obligation to make sure we're buying good equipment at a reasonable price, that's all. And
We're going to call the vote on this. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
I wish you wouldn't do that, Chief, when I'm talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When I'm talking.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
You can do it later.
I did not.
Okay.
I thought you were finished.
I am finished now,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay.
Excuse me, can I just ask a real quick question?
Yes, sir.
He mentioned, do we do our maintenance ourselves on this, like oil changes and stuff?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so we're
We have-
saving money by doing it in-house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I will comment on that. The commissioner will learn that we do maintenance on other department trucks too. We have our station that is fully equipped to maintain these apparatus and others. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The next item on the agenda under new business is the purchase of replacement vehicles. It's a budgeted item. It's in your pack. Need a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Station 23, the relocation during rebuild. Who's going to handle that?
I'll take it, sir.
Okay.
Basically, when we decided we were going to rebuild Station 3, we ran across some issues in trying to determine where we would like to put the staff, the firefighters who are going to be responding to that area. Some thoughts were brought up that maybe we move them to another station for, 8 or 9 months, but as an operational efficiency, I didn't think that was a good enough answer for the people who depend on that station up near the Pelican Landing area. So we thought about placing a trailer on the site and running electric and water and the standard utilities to support 3 firefighters and an engine. However, that would add some difficulties and some, unnecessary burdens to do such a move. So we started looking around and we found a storefront, which is off of, right, if everyone knows where Lansdowne is, it's right behind Lansdowne in the Burnwood Shopping Plaza there, Burnwood Strip Mall. And we contacted the owner/manager and to wonder if we could make a deal, to see if we could make a deal about it. And they were willing to deal with us. So the cost that you have in front of you is a 1-year deal for $2,750 a month, with the first 2 months free. We did budget for this type of scenario, and we knew this was going to happen. We were hoping that we could put a trailer on, but then, like I said, the troops would be also living in a construction zone or on a construction site for 8 months. This option will give them the opportunity to keep the response times the same as they are by responding to calls essentially, a few hundred yards away from where they are now. So basically, I just wanted to inform the board that we will be getting into a lease agreement with them for a year deal, and we had sent this, myself and the assistant chief sent this to our council, and he stated that the lease was in fact a good lease, legally.
Commissioner Murphy?
It sounds like a good proposal. How would we protect our equipment? Is that going to be out in the open?
Well, there is a little driveway during the day which they can respond to if you're familiar with the area, right in between Lansdowne and the shop, I wouldn't call it shopping plaza, the business center that nobody uses. So we could park it there during the day. However, at night, the owner said we could park it directly in front of the station and put cameras up or whatever we need to do
front
to
of
help
Lansdowne.
secure it.
In front of Lansdowne?
No,
or-
sir.
No.
Behind Lansdowne, behind it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So there's a little driveway, like a one-vehicle driveway, which they could park during the day, but at night they could move it up front, in front of the picture window, in front of the station.
And the good news, it's a 15-year-old truck, so we
Yeah.
won't be having a brand-new one sitting
Right.
inside.
And another advantage is it keeps us from having to store all of our equipment on an off-site facility if we would have used the trailer methodology. However, this method allows us to, I think we'll be able to move the majority of our stuff. The troops will have weights in there. We can put a little weight room so they can work out like they do normally. So it should, and they have some separate office spaces. It's all set up for internet, cable, we just have to make some minor adjustments to make a shower in there, which
Okay.
The
Well, that's in
company's
your-
bill
that's
is
in-
gonna help.
That's in the scope of your authority. You don't need a motion for this.
yes, sir, and inform the board that this was
Thank you.
taking place. Yes, sir.
Next item, WCIND grant,
The Weeson grant, I'm going to turn this over to Deputy
Fire
Chief
rescue
Scott,
boat.
our expert.
Yeah. So what we wanted to talk to you about tonight is to pursue the grant process that starts in March. So just to remind everyone of how the timeline works on the grant. The grant is a 50% grant that we did on our last boat back in 12. So the grant application is due March 1st. They release and award the grant October 1st. It would be of 18. And then you have a complete year to start the purchase and/or planning of the next project. So let me get to why we're asking for this. As you know, just to review quickly, we moved into Station 7. Our boat sits on a lift 24/7, 365. The boat we have has been a great boat for the last 6 years. If we pursue the grant and we get it, it would be 8 years old by the time we got a new one, if the board goes along. The depreciation we put on this boat was 8 years, so it's right in line with when we thought. To remind the board, we got the grant for the boat we have. Our part was about $40,000 in 2012.
and it
For
was
the
100.
current-
It was a $100,000 boat, is that
It was a
right?
$100,000 boat. But we traded in the old boat, so that offset the price, and then it was 50/50. So our portion was right in the $40,000 range.
And we will trade this one in too?
Well, we haven't got that far yet.
Okay,
So
but I mean,
remember-
just from a total cost, we probably
Yeah,
should have-
we would trade if they would take it, or, try to sell it if we.
I was
got
under the
the-
impression when we bought that boat, we were going to get 10 years out of it.
We probably would have gotten 10 years if it didn't sit out in the lift now in the weather on the saltwater ever since,
Fair enough.
And I'm not saying we couldn't get 10 years out of it, but our mission has slightly changed. So because of those reasons, I just wanted to start this process now, and really all I'm looking for is to apply for the grant, and then we'll report back if we get it.
What do you think your chances of getting the grant are?
Better than average, I would
Okay.
say, pretty good. But I wanted to discuss a little bit on what we're looking at getting, because that, Chairman, that kind of comes back to what you said about the boat we have. So the boat we have is a recreational boat that we had customized and custom-made to meet our needs. It's got about a 100 gallon per minute pump on the front, portable pump we put on, we plumbed through the bottom. We customized it to make it as safe as possible, and it has been an excellent boat. The boat we're looking at pursuing is the type of boat you see the Coast Guard run, the Navy run. It's all aluminum. It's got the big, protective rubber stakes around the outside. Of course, all the electronics we have now, very much a professional, style commercial boat. 500 GPM pump on it. Only built by companies, that's the only type of boats they make. They don't make any recreational boats. You can't go see these boats at a marina anywhere. Like I said, they sell to the Navy, the Coast Guard, Border Patrol, people like that. So personally, we have discussed it. We think that we are ready to progress and move into that style of professional rescue boat. Everything else we buy, as you know, and you just got done discussing, is top-end equipment, and we feel that it's time for us to step. We're on most every call in the south end of the county first now because of our response. So there's more responsibility on us than ever before. Yes, sir.
You have an estimated price on this new
Yes.
boat?
So we're looking at 3 different models. They range from $220,000 to about $280,000. So we were looking at 3 different models now, but we have not locked in on one yet. We're going to look at, actually leaving tomorrow, to look at 2 of those boats. So we would get to actually sea trial them in Louisiana.
But that would probably cost us over $100,000, though.
Yes. So the grant portion, if we did somewhere in the middle, let's say 250,
Yeah.
$125,000, that would be in next year's budget, the 18-19 budget.
And what do you think our boat is worth?
30 to 40,
Really?
yeah. When we get there, 8 years old, boats,
I'll write you a check right now for it for 30.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to give you guys any, that it's worth a lot more than that. It's customized. It would probably only go to another fire department because of the things we've done to it. And there may be another department very interested in it, maybe even locally here. Our boat is very popular around the county. Lots of people like it, lots of people come to see it. But we've had some repairs on it. Fiberglass repairs, T-top had to be rebuilt, just wear and tear from doing the kind of business we do.
Okay, thank you. Is this all part of the next item, grant writing? Was that all?
No, sir, that's a separate issue.
Okay.
We just wanted approval from the board to pursue the grant.
Well, absolutely.
The application.
You got a consensus on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not, just so you know too, you're not signing a contract or anything,
Right.
absolutely. We could still, back out of that.
Right.
It's not locked in, but we didn't want to come back later in the year and say, oh, by the way, we wrote this grant and got it, now we're on the hook for this thing next year. So we wanted to make sure you were informed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is fitness center. I think Commissioner Machiro wants to.
Yes, sir. I spoke with the chief, and one of the things that I wanted to look into for the firemen and women here is, it's my understanding that with our current insurance, they might cover the cost of spending some money and getting them a membership at a local, or I understand most of the firemen don't live in the area. So if we can approach A, the insurance company, and B, one of the local fitness centers, find out who has different locations, and then maybe get them a membership for them and their family, simply because it shouldn't cost the board anything. Insurance is very proactive now, and they want to keep these men and women physically fit. And I believe they offer a thing where we can go in and provide that for them, and they cover the cost. We might have to supplement them a little bit, I don't know, but I'd like to get a motion to move forward on that and see if we...
We can't do a motion on it, but we can get a, we have to wait till another time, but what I think we can do is get a consensus of the board if they'd give the administrative staff authority to do all the research on it, bring it back, and put it on the agenda at such time, and then we'll do a vote on it.
Okay.
Is everybody in agreement to investigate that? Okay,
Yes, sir.
very good. Next
And I
item.
believe, Commissioner Machero, you did have something about the grant writing.
I did. One of the things at the sheriff's office is we had someone that was a full-time grant officer, and we actually had a problem with the public because we were getting vehicles, vessels, boats, and it was all paid for by grant money. I would like to have, bring it up for approval so we can maybe put a motion on the next agenda, or bring it up on the next agenda for a motion for approval, that we look into getting an estimate on a consultant for a grant writing to come in here. I can't underscore enough how much money we got that's available. There's several different types of grants. There's block grants, categorical grants. The state has grant money, the feds, even, I'm just looking online now just before we started, and U.S. Fire Administration, there's grant money that's available right now for fire prevention and safety grants. So there's money there. Some of these are real broad strokes that you can use the money for anything. Some of them we can say if we needed money for ballistic protection. We can actually not have to cost the city of Bonita, the people, a dime. The feds will pay for it. It's just, it's so time consuming. I'm not an expert in it. I've never written a grant. I don't want to mislead you. However, I'm very familiar with the process because I was in on those meetings, and I know how valuable our grant writer was because other departments were trying to steal her from us. She got us a lot of money. It's out there. It's just like the commercial with the guy with the jacket with all the question marks saying, hey, I got college money for you. There's fire money out there, and we just need to find it and get it. So I'd like to get a consultant and find out what it's going to cost to have somebody come in and start writing some grants for us.
Is there consensus on that? Okay, there's something else you can research and bring back to us. Is that it?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Sure. Chief Daigle's report.
Thank you. I have some items just to bring the board and the public up to speed of some things that we have going on here at the fire department. I have several of them. First of all, we did have a lieutenant's test, which was on February 5th, when we had 19 personnel take the test, 13 passed. We successfully executed our grand opening for Station 6, which in large part was due to Nicole Hornberger to make a very big success from what I've heard from members of the public in the area. Additionally, we conducted a hiring process to fill Jessica's spot. They did a phone interview. We had 84 applicants for that position. It's more for that than we did get for firefighters, pretty much. We're close to it. They did a technical skills survey, which was took 2 days. Out of that, they did 8, after the phone interview, they technical skills, 18 people took the technical skills, and then they went through the interview process in which they have supplied me with 4 names, which I will be picking from after I interview them on Wednesday, or Wednesday. We also are convening an interview board to hire a new firefighter. One of our new firefighters could not make it off probation, so we need to fill that slot, and we have to convene a board for that. Obviously, the logistical concerns that to respond from Station 3 has consumed some time and effort to work on. We're doing a systems evaluation of the newly implemented 2nd Battalion. Now, this comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of challenges with staffing, how we work together, responses, who's taking over the district when somebody responds to something like a incident like the plane wreck. We purchased a new engine. We're in the process of training and implementing our new SCBA that we have coming in today. We have to train, every one of our firefighters. They've been doing it today. They spent all day in here today, basically, training on that. Obviously, it's our number one piece of life-saving equipment that firefighters use. Next, we have ongoing training of our HR personnel, Jenny. She's jumped in with both feet. She's had hiring of administration people, hiring of firefighters. She's been very busy. Inspectors. She's learning more. She couldn't have came in at a better time to get her feet wet in the HR division. ISO, Deputy Chief Madden has arranged and done all the groundwork and paperwork to have ISO come in on February 20th to reassess us, and hopefully we get good news out of that.
How long does it take to get the answer back on the ISO? I forget.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's very long. I believe it's like 6 weeks or something to that effect.
6 weeks, sir. It should take less than 2 months. But,
Okay, thanks. I couldn't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah. The Weeson grant we already discussed. The Station 27 overhang or accessory structure. I know Commissioner Fitzgerald was interested in this as well as the rest of the board. We had two proposals presented to the board. One, which was a cheeky hut, which cost about $16,000, $17,000. Two was a more elaborate structure that was more permanent in nature, that we did receive I wouldn't call it a bid, an estimate back, that would be approximately $200,000 to build that accessory structure the way you saw the architectural design. I believe that there was going to be some discussion on this, simply because at this time, we have not budgeted for it. However, we do have some options for the less expensive option versus the more expensive option.
At first blush, that's kind of a widespread, 16,000 and 240. I mean, and nothing in between. Or 200,
200,
sorry.
yes, sir.
It's kind of a widespread there.
If I may.
Sure.
I mean, we don't own this building, so I just start the issue going. I think that's an awful lot of money just to dress it up, a place we're renting. I mean, the tiki hut is fine, but will we have any problems getting approval from the city to put the tiki hut? I mean, as far as I'm
I
concerned,
don't think so.
all we want is something to protect the engine. I don't think we need anything fancy.
No.
I mean, it's not our building and our property. I mean, it looks nice, but that's a lot of money.
I would support the expenditure of $200,000. We have a 100-year lease on this building, for one, so it's not something where the money is wasted. This station is located on Hickory Island, among our richest, not so much the richest people who live there, but there's a concentration of high-rise and wealthy homes and beautiful structures. And to put in a little tiki hut, I think, is completely out of order. I think we have a responsibility, and we live up to it normally, to locate and maintain our stations at least as well as the neighborhoods they're in. We do much better than that, by the way. I defend any expenditure of a fire station that I've seen in Southwest Florida, primarily for the location it's in. We build beautiful stations, and we maintain them. These are not something that deteriorates over time. Our department should be proud of itself. That station in North Naples, by the way, that some people laugh at, I think is appropriate, proper for that neighborhood. And that I speak the same way here. This is Hickory Island. This is an elite type of area. To put up a little tiki hut, the numbers sound crazy, but we're talking about, we don't own this building, but we have a 100-year lease. So I support the expenditure of the $200,000. I don't know where you got the $200,000 from, by the way. I hope that there is maybe other bids on that, and we can maybe do better.
Is that doing the whole building, or is that just doing the overhang?
That's just doing the overhang. However, that was done because the board asked, we didn't put it out for bid because we don't know
Yeah.
which way, I don't know which way the board wants to go on it. But we did get that estimate from the architect who has built several, structures similar.
Yeah.
So basically, they're just doing the part where the truck is in the front. They're not going to touch the roof or do anything with the
No,
facade
sir.
of the building. They drew it in and made it look, it's just going to be,
They're going to tie it into the building, yes, sir.
right.
But not
but-
do anything to the
But not do
building.
anything else to the
Yeah,
building.
I would think this picture you're showing to us would depict what we're talking about.
Yes, that
Yeah,
shows
okay.
exactly.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I have a word?
Yes.
I think I like the idea of what both commissioners had to say. I like Commissioner Fitzgerald's opinion that this is a structure that we're going to have for a long period of time. I also like to hear what Commissioner Casilla had to say about a tiki hut and saving some money. A combination of the two might be the answer. For the year that we can't put this up because it's not budgeted yet, we use the tiki hut to protect our equipment. It's real easy to take that back down and put up a permanent structure once it's budgeted for. In the meantime, we can service both approaches.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? I think that obviously the consensus here is to give us some options and get some hard prices and
Okay.
find out, we've got a budget coming up,
Okay,
this
so
summer.
what we can do for this discussion here is, we could take the money, should the board choose to do so, out of our buildings and all put up the Cheeky Hut as soon as we get permitting, assuming that we get the permitting passed. And then look at a process to implement Commissioner Murphy's idea of, with a long-term goal of building, when I say long-term goal, a year or two, depending on how the board would like to approach it for a capital improvement point of view, and place that into the budget in this coming year.
Well, I'm just baffled that the two options we have are so opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, that troubles me.
That's my question, too. I'm not in favor of the tiki hut. I totally agree with Commissioner Fitzgerald, but we're not budgeted for it. That's my main concern right now. That's what,
There was a third option, remember, that had the aluminum overhang that the city, they actually drew themselves, but they didn't like it. So that was the third option. Essentially, all these options, there was three options. There was the Cheeky Hut, there was the aluminum overhang, and then now there was a more elaborate one, this one that's a more permanent nature, I would say. So those were the three options.
And where did we get the $200,000 price?
That was from the architect who has built the architect who built several items. This is not a construction cost from a construction company to build it. It's just a,
Conceptual drawing that he threw a price of $200,000 in.
what he did.
Okay.
I would like to ask Commissioner Casillas, you're in the business.
I can see that's a $200,000 drawing.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, but I agree with Mr. Fitzgerald. That's beautiful. I like it. It shows what we are. It's in a spot where it should be, but I was just worried about the budget system. We're not budgeted for it right now, and I don't particularly want to spend that money if we don't have it.
Well, I'm sure that a large part of the cost of that has got to be coming from the hurricane code part of it, because to throw up a cover like that, obviously the hidden costs have got to be from the design for hurricane code.
Mr. Commissioner, we put up a structure at our golf course. It was nothing more than a snack bar, $250,000, about the same size as this structure.
Well, I think that you just need to get something back to us, and something with actual hard dollars, and I don't know what everybody else feels. I don't like seeing our truck sit outside, but, it's been outside now for several months, and I think pulling money out to build a tiki hut, if that's not the direction we're going to go, personally, I'd go with the tiki hut. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's a beach kind of a look to it, but, and it's only $16,000. I mean, it'll probably end up being substantially more than that by the time we'll have to put pads and...
We could try the tiki hut, see how it works out, and if necessary, push that possibility of the permanent structure down the road. It could be a year, 2, 3, or 5.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense, and I don't know, maybe there's another option somewhere in between too, you know, that isn't 16,000, but it isn't 200,000, you know, I just, there may be something out there that, you can find somebody to give you some thoughts on it and go from there and then bring it back and then between now and the next budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, have anything else, Chief?
Yes, I wanted to recognize that we do have all vehicle repeaters, which is important operational piece of equipment in which other large areas use. A vehicle repeater, what it does is it helps the troops communicate in areas where we don't have good coverage. Those have been successfully installed on all of our engines except for 27. We're still working on a solution for that. And it helps us communicate, for example, in areas out where the plane crash was, where, you know, we have spotty coverage, additionally in the high rises and other areas that are a little bit out of reach under the county system.
Chief, could that repeater be at the station itself?
No, sir, that's on every truck. So the repeater, it repeats it from that station, from the truck. So it's the closest to the scene, so we can get the maximum amount of power.
What's the issue with that truck that,
It's engine 27. We're just looking for a location to figure out what we need to do with it. It's the mini pumper.
right? I know
So,
the
you know,
truck.
trying to mount something like a vehicle repeater becomes difficult when you're trying to save space.
If I may, we had them in my department, and what they do, Jim, just for your information, is the portables transmit back to the engine and are bounced back out of there at a much stronger signal. So, it works, it's just as like a mobile main station is what it is. So and when you're in remote areas, it's a terrific thing.
So you're saying there's not enough room on that truck? So you-
We're working on it.
Okay,
We're working
all
on
right,
it.
thank you.
Just a couple more items. EMS inspection. I did want to recognize Deputy Chief Scott, who's done an outstanding job with our EMS division and has, it's not as good as when I was running it, but it's getting there.
My specialty is water, that's why.
I did want to read this for the public. This is from the state inspector and from the Department of Health, and she inspects our EMS service. It says, outstanding inspection. Employee and service records are some of the best I have seen. Engine 24 vehicles equipped and clean and well-equipped. Crews were polite, worked well together to locate required equipment. Deputy Chief Richard Scott, I thank you and your staff for help and cooperation during this inspection. So I just wanted to recognize the Deputy Chief for his outstanding job in running our EMS division.
Thank you.
Next, I did want to discuss the impact fees. I sent the board the impact fee study. If you had seen the impact fee study, let me get through my papers here. I believe it's on page 17, in which Bonita Springs, for a single-family unit, the data suggests that would be raised 62%. For multifamily, 63%. For mobile homes, 71%. Hotel motels, 27%. Retail, 47%. Office space, 52%. Public institutions, 39%. Industrial, 10%. And warehouse, 35%. I did go to the meeting on February 6th at the county, and the idea right now, should things remain the same, they're looking at maybe doing a different type of study with different characteristics. One of the county commissioners recommended that, so they're going to review the cost and time frame for doing another study. However, should the study stand today, the majority of the board, from what I gathered from the meeting, is supportive of 100% of the impact fee increases being collected by the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District. So that's what I have to report, and that's what showed. It's not official yet, but that's every indication that I can see moving along, unless they obtain this second study and decide to get the results from that, which we don't know yet. Cocoa plum plants, say that 5 times. We've tried to plant them. Nobody will plant them in this time of year, so they're afraid they're going to die, and they'll be liable for that. So we're going to wait, we have to wait to find a company that will plant them as soon as...
What's that for?
That's to, out near the training tower. The board approved in the budget to plant plants to hide the training tower. That was one of Commissioner Fitzgerald's initiatives.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
They won't plant them right
I
now.
can't help the weather, but I'm sure we'll get them in, and I thank you for the work. And I thank Chief Madden for following up on it.
Yes, sir. I did also, and I was remiss at the meeting to, I didn't recognize the Assistant Chief and also Fire Marshal Fernandez for the hard work that they did on 26. I mean, really, he was the oversight, the Assistant Chief was the oversight for that entire station, and anyone who knows him knows how specific he is about things. And I relied heavily on him and Tim for their expertise, and I believe they helped us produce, at the board's direction, an outstanding station. I would also request, should the commissioners individually choose to do so, supply us with a bio of yourself. I know it was asked of me if we should get bios of the commissioners, and I would say, should you decide you wanted to give one to the district, we can put it on the website and use it for any other kind of public speaking if you decide you want your bio read in any other engagements for whatever you would like the district to do with that. Hurricane Irma costs, it was requested of me to give an analysis of Hurricane Irma costs. Once again, Lisa Gendron has been working very, very diligently with the feds to determine the cost and receive our reimbursement. Irma, we'll just start, and I'll just hit some high points here. Irma overtime costs were $82,758. Also, the sand that we used was $1,250. Medical supplies, $400. Miscellaneous, like food for USAR, when we had them come in to help us with searching for victims, was $333. Fuel, $12,285. One mattress, $199. Vehicle repair deductible, $7,268.25. The Kubota, which is a little four-wheel drive, we sunk it in the water trying to help people. We got $500 back for the deductible. The city had used our fuel. They have repaid us for the fuel. So the total cost was $97,728.68. Additionally, that was including the debris removal, which was $3,150. At this time, we believe that FEMA should reimburse us at approximately 90% of the costs. It could be more, but right now we're estimating 90% of the costs.
The time frame on that is,
Years.
yeah, has that changed?
Hopefully not, but then in our experience, it's
Yeah.
been over a year, maybe two.
Chief, I have a question. During the debris removal, such as Pelican Landing had 28 blockages on their main arteries, you sent in equipment after doing a survey, and all those trees were pushed off the roadway. Is that cost included in there?
That is not included. What we do out is, that's just emergency response. The cost included with that is time of the engine and the personnel working. Debris removal is basically around the stations.
We won't get reimbursed for the removal of those trees off of the roads at Pelican Landing and other communities?
That is reimbursable just in staff hours, like when we get reimbursed for our overtime hours and engine usage, that's where that comes in. Because they consider paying for that engine usage, understanding that they're doing emergency work.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. And lastly, we received a Storm Ready Community Award from the city of Bonita Springs at the last board meeting. And I just wanted to thank the city for that. And we enjoy working together with them, and it just makes our community all the safer when we work in conjunction with our partners in the city. And I know that was long, but there was a lot of information there that I believe that the board
Thank
needed
you,
to know.
Chief.
Yes, sir.
Assistant Chief DeWitt? Deputy Chief Rich? And we have Deputy Chief Madden's report. Okay, public comment. Alex Grant.
Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street, Bonita Springs. First, I'd like to thank Lisa for the finance director for confirming some of my figures that I requested last time. Basically, I looked at the battalion chief, typical retirement of battalion chief. I'm assuming it would retire at, the last one retired at, I think, $115,930. Let us assume that we have 6 battalion chiefs. They'd be retiring at 115, let's say hypothetically $115,930. And I did for the 17-year period of retirement when they were hired before 2010, and the final figure was at the 17th year, $191,614. I then proceeded to add that up year by year for each year from 119,000 and then add the 3% on, each continuing rate for 17 years, and came out after the 17th year, the total retirement package that this individual, an individual battalion chief would receive would be $2,597,000. I also did the same thing for a typical lieutenant retiring at $100,000. I'm assuming we have now, 24 lieutenants? Am I right? 8 lieutenants per ship times 3, 24 lieutenants, something like that? Correct? Sorry. I'm just losing paperwork. Anyway, that if they retired $100,000, thank you. The final figure would be, after 17 years, $165,284, and then I did the total over that 17-year period at if they were hired before 2010 at 3%, and that would be about $2,241,900 over that period of time. Now, why I'm mentioning it is I'm concerned about the pension liability over a 10 or 15-year period of time during which these people would be retiring. Now, granted, we have 7%, everybody contributes 7% of their salaries, but when you add that up over a period of time that I had the information from, based upon the audits for the last, from 1987 to 2016, the total figure, that was $6,500,000. Now, there is, the liability is the problem here. And my suggestion to the board is maybe what we should do is restructure the pension, the advisors to the pension board, in other words, the actual pension board. Certainly you have just have an accountant, a banker, another financial person, financial advisor, an insurance agent or something like that, on the pension board together with the one fire person.
Next speaker would be David J.
Evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Dave J., 25810 Hickory Boulevard, number 603, Bonita Springs. First point is that there was a 4-page budget, and the budget was on the agenda. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like you to provide me with some information about why I wasn't allowed the courtesy of being able to speak on the budget. I've been here for over an hour and a half. The budget is $19.7 million, I believe, just for this month. To follow up on what Alex Grant is suggesting on pension reforms, my goodness, there definitely should be some policies to prevent unused sick and medical days from artificially spiking up the last year's pay, which would artificially increase the pension. Of course, people should get their unused medical and vacation days, but not for the purpose of artificially spiking up the pension. Number 2, union salaries should not be added to the fire district salaries. Number 3, make sure there are not any of these infamous one-day promotions, that the promotions would have to be in effect for at least 181 days. Secondly, health is a huge concern. Thank you for bringing up the point about fitness. However, it's not an option in Collier County. Collier County Schools and Collier County government says that if you are overweight or if you smoke, that you have 6 months to get on the program so that you are healthier. It's good for you personally, for your family, for the taxpayers, and for the performance. And if not, if you're obese or you smoke, you have to pay a higher insurance premium. The board should consider adopting that. 11 weeks paid off each year is too many. I also doubt if there's going to be a 100-year building. I live in Hickory Island. And what I think my neighbors tell me are more concerned about is how high the property taxes are. My goodness, I've got a Michigan home, a frame home, and the firefighter budget here is 4.2 times more than the city where, 3.6 times more than the city where I live. And we have less than 1% structural fires. It's too much. So retirement and health have got to be key items. The other items would be privatization. I did see the pumper truck in front of Seascape, and I was wondering, why is the pumper truck out here? Nobody's having a heart attack, they're not inside. 3 firefighters got out of the pumper truck to paint the fire plug, fire plug. There was no testing, exercising the valve. There was no any other test of that fire plug. It was just 3 people watched 2, and one of the men had a can of paint and a brush. That should be privatized. These costs are taxpayer dollars. I don't believe grant money is free money. My God, Congress irresponsibly in both parties has passed deficit spending last week even more than the Obama years. So just to think that we're going to be getting free money like the guy with some question marks on TV is irresponsible, and it is not the proper way to conduct business by putting our debt onto the future children and grandchildren. The retirement contributions I see in this month alone is $4.6 million. That's 57% of the salary figures off of your own budget I wasn't able to speak to. 57% of the salary. Please consider these reforms instead of just going to Louisiana, look at boats and building more structures we can't afford.
Thank you.
I believe I've got
Mr. Ron Pure?
Hi, Ron Pure, Bonita Springs. I came here tonight wanting to address, among other things, impact fees, and the chief preempted me. But you really didn't, because this place has been out to lunch with respect to non-charge of impact fees appropriately for, I don't know, the past 6 or 7 years. See, I think, and others, that the impact fees shouldn't have been totally left up to the fire the county commission, but there should have been an aggressive push by the fire district to move forward with that, well as, of course, the Board of Ed was out to lunch on the proper collection of impact fees, and we're seeing the result of that now. You folks have an enormous wish list here. I gotta say, things I've heard tonight I didn't expect to hear about. There's a push now, apparently, for a Coast Guard type boat for the use of our district. I don't know that that's necessary. I think the boat that you have now has probably served you pretty well. There is likely to be repairs necessary in any kind of vehicle that you folks operate, and there are many commercially available boats, pleasure boats, i.e. pleasure boats, that are pretty well made, as is probably the case for the one that you now own. Mention about cost efficiencies. I haven't heard any tonight. Chief, you were a graduate of Harvard University recently. Congratulations on that, and I hope it all went well. But ironically, Harvard University...
Not yet.
Oh, not yet? Well, you're about to be at some point, I'm sure. You're a great guy. However, you haven't visited the campus either?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, you'll be in buildings there that are 100-plus years old. Fantastic condition. They accommodate thousands of students, adults, and so on and so forth throughout the year. Yet we're still focused on demolishing a building that was built in 1992 out in front of Pelican Landing and replacing it with something else that you say is more compatible with other buildings that have been built in the area. It doesn't matter. We're not in the franchise business. That building can be efficient and effectively used for years to come if you get a designer in and put the skull cap on and have them come up with something like to improve the roof, even the design of the roof, retrofit the interior with the electronics that you guys need, and you're going to come out with it a hell of a lot more money than you expressed several meetings ago when somebody asked you, what if we just redid the building instead of going for the demolishing and replacement of the existing building? You said, well, it's about the same price. Then I think you've got to rebid that situation if you so desire, which would be a wise move. And I believe a lot of taxpayers would agree with that. There's a lot here also to address. I'm going to run out of time shortly, but it would be beneficial to, as a matter of fact, you mentioned cocoa plums and not being plantable now. Another folly as far as I'm concerned, and others, because you could do a more effective job of buffering the look of the tower and whatever else you have to hide in that field that's mostly open by simply planting trees, evergreens, and done in such a way as to be very pleasing to the eye. I'll catch you at another meeting, I'm sure. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. That's the end of our public comment. Motion to adjourn.
I have a comment. We have the individuals come here frequently and have complaints, and I welcome those complaints. But if any of us took any organization and looked into it and tried to see what was in their minds a weakness, we can all do that. I can find a weakness in everything, even sometimes you guys, believe it or not. But I want to say, and I have never said this here, that I'm very proud to be a commissioner in this department and work with such excellent leadership, excellent men who are dedicated and disciplined, and run this department as a premier department in Southwest Florida. And there's nothing less than our citizens are welcome to, not welcome to, but have every right to. So I think this is a great department, run by great men, and as a pretty honest, I don't say completely, but pretty honest Board of Commissioners who have a very difficult job. So when an individual comes up with a complaint, I think that, and these are broadcast over the airway, they do exercise their right, and we do listen to them. And I just want to say that as a commissioner, and I look at the operation of this department, it's expensive. There's no doubt about it. Salaries are expensive. But what they work, the men work, they're entitled to that salary. I do have a beef, and it's with the pensions, to be very honest with you. But I think all the men on this board understand that. I'm just inclined to tell you, I defend this department. I will identify problems. I will try to demand that you do as good as anybody could possibly do, and you do that. And your chief officers do that also. So I welcome the complaints. They're good for us. We run a good department, maybe because people watch us, and that's good. Okay, why did I speak? I speak because, and sometimes I never praise. I'm inclined to be a fault finder, and I think that's what many of the people who come here address. They address maybe our extravagances, what they think are extravagances, or our expense to run this department. But I don't think there's any other way we can, to be honest with you. So, I thank you, Chief. I thank you for your work. I thank your men for their work. And I thank this board for responding to the citizens' complaint, thinking about them, and assuring to ourselves that we do the best we possibly can. Because we do control the purse strings in many, many ways. So, I identify myself sometimes as a carping critic, but that's the same problem a lot of our citizens have. They just look at one small part. But when I look at the entire organization, I have to say I'm proud. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
I move.
Thanks for coming.